Hello, everyone, to a new edition of Ask Guillem. And I've got a lot of very good questions. And in fact, I've added one or two of my own because, in fact, I will start with one of mine, if you don't mind. Just because I published in Spanish, for those of you that speak Spanish, my understanding of the situation of the conclusion reached by Edge Health about the more than 40, 47, I think they say, deaths that have happened because of COVID related to the Liverpool Atletico Madrid game. And I need to clarify that, I feel, and I did that in El Partidazo de la Cope, the radio show I am part of in the evening. Starts at midnight, that's very late. But it's one of the most followed, in fact, the best followed radio show that is in Spain, football-wise. And I explained that, as I put in the audio there, because it is only what Edge Health did is just a mathematical calculation based on the cases that were in Spain, the cases that were in United Kingdom, and also the evolution of the pandemic in places like Liverpool. And they came up with that conclusion. But it's only, and I insisted on that in El Partidazo, it's only a mathematical calculation. There is no evidence whatsoever that links those deaths or that amount of deaths to the game. You can conclude that yes, there was a peak of cases, a slight peak of cases a couple of weeks after the game, but because the hospitals in Liverpool say they were not asking patients if they had been to the game, there's no data to confirm that link. So it's very dangerous to make that jump. Mathematically, it's possible. That's as close as you can get, and perhaps not scientific enough to say that those deaths are linked to the game. In a more general way, you can say that mathematically, following, as Edge Health had said, mathematically they followed a model, and as such they reached that conclusion. Everybody else has taken the conclusion that actually they are direct causes of those deaths. There isn't. Now, a different matter is, of course, that game in Anfield, when in Spain we knew there weren't going to be games at the weekend, when schools were being closed, etc., is a game that perhaps shouldn't have happened, or at least it would have happened behind closed doors. It was risky. I had to go to the game. I was in my flat in Manchester, decided not to go because I knew what was coming. I knew what was happening in Spain. And the 3,000 fans, Atletico Madrid fans, that went to Anfield, don't blame them, because there was no prohibition from the UK government to enter the country, and there was none from Spain not to travel. There was only the recommendation from the sport branch of the government, the Consejo Superior de Deportes, that said that it was irresponsible to do so. Atletico Madrid said the same. They said they will actually return the money to those that wanted to stay behind, but basically nobody did because it wasn't forbidden to do so. And it was the beginning of the pandemic. So basically that's something I wanted to share with you. As I said, I would have played it behind closed doors, but perhaps we didn't have enough information. In any case, that's what I wanted to say. Another email I want to put, tweet that I want to put myself, is that I published that it's wrongly published that Ossi Ardiles has said that Pochettino held talks with the potential Newcastle owners, like it said in a link that I put in the Mac. And it was only reported, I think first, Daily Mail, The Sun, it was also in the Mirror, because obviously somebody picked the story, and that was what spread out. I spoke to Ossi. He said none of the sort. In fact, what he said, he was in a conversation with Argentina media, that he said, talk to Pochettino, don't ask me about this. And secondly, I imagine he'll speak to whoever is interested. And thirdly, Ossi Ardila said, I've got no idea if Newcastle has spoken to him. Right, I can tell you that my understanding is that there's been no call to Pochettino related to Newcastle. Obviously, he's heard the stories. He's read the stories, he's seen them in Sky and in other media. He's not, he's not deaf or blind. But it's also the case that he's still the number one choice for the would-be owners of Newcastle. And it's also the case that he will listen to whoever knocks the door, as he has done in the past. There's been conversations or people ringing directly or indirectly about, in the past, about Juventus, about Inter, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Barcelona. And I reported them here in this channel. So that's the latest I know on this. On Newcastle, by the way, third one from me. I won't make this a habit, but I thought that I needed to clarify this. I've read that Newcastle to swap for Real Madrid attacker, ? Clickbait. This is like fishing. This is not clickbait. How would you represent clickbait? Bite. Something like that. It says Spanish journalist Guillem Balague has claimed, still in the tweet, that Newcastle have joined the race to sign James Rodriguez from Real Madrid this summer. This is something I mentioned, I think, last week's Ask Guillem. And I didn't say that. I said that Newcastle, they should be, because they won't be able to attract the biggest names, they should be getting people like Cavani, for instance, whose contract finishes, James, who Real Madrid wants him to go out and find a club. That's all I said. And then it gets transformed. But you know what? It's been interesting because I think more of you realize what's a clickbait. And if you are in doubt of the source, if the story sounds to you a little bit strange, you go to the source, to the original source. If it's nothing in my timeline, or you watch the video and I say something else, then that's... I know people go very quickly jump from story to story, but it's always good to check. And I do believe that we've gone beyond the prehistory, if you like, of online clickbaiting. And what I mean by that is a year, 2 years, 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, it was very easy for people to just believe everything. Now, I think it's important to identify the source, the quality of the source, and where the story comes out, and how it comes out. And I think people are getting cleverer about that. It's those people that I want to talk to. The rest, if they want to be clickbaited, is that a word? Then, that is also an audience. Why not? What else? Martin Black says, do you think we'll start to have fans at games, maybe with 25% or 50% capacity towards the end of the year? La Liga, I think, is calculating that won't happen perhaps until next year, calendar year. In Poland, they are planning to get 999 fans into the stadium. And of course, people will look at that very closely and see the consequences of it. But La Liga is following the pushing to get to the 11th or even the 9th in the second division. There'll be a game on the 9th of June. They were pushing, but following the science, if you like, following a protocol that was working in Germany, convincing everybody that it was a good idea to play as early as perhaps the 11th or the 12th. I think some will like the 19th. Nothing has been confirmed. La Liga would like it to be the 11th and with Sevilla Betis. But they will have to wait for government approval of that. In any case, my understanding is that La Liga is not thinking of fans yet. And so we're going to have to wait and not speculate, really, because it doesn't take us anywhere. BB-Boy Serge, who's a regular here, says, in the last episode you said that top teams won't be able to show the rhythm that we used to. Could this mean that Barcelona, that lately doesn't have high rhythm and tempo, could win the Champions League purely due to the class and skill, or by the time it starts, most teams will recover? The last thing you said is important. Yes, it will be, and we've seen it in Germany, slow rhythm, slow pace. The build-ups are slow as well. The gaps between the lines are very big because physically the teams are not ready to do the kind of thing that they're supposed to do, including creating that kind of dynamic in which the ball gets passed quickly and recovering the ball early as well. They won't be doing that for a while. But then we're talking, a month and a half down the line, in which case, in August, you will have teams with injuries for sure, because that's affecting everybody and will do so, especially in Spain and Serie A and Premier League that will play 2 games per week. But as well as that, I think coaches will realize much more what is needed, will identify the moments to do, to use that energy for that rhythm or to recover the ball. They will identify that moment and select them as well, and select them better to a point where they will start looking like their own, I think, for what I've been talking to physical coaches. by the time the season finishes, really, and by the time the Champions League starts. Sergio González says, is Pochettino near, close, he said in Spanish, but I'll translate for you, is he near to, is he going to sign soon for Newcastle? And a big hug. As I said, there's no news yet. UA Online, is Poch open to joining Newcastle United? It's another way of asking the same thing. And of course, you can have your opinion about the owners of Newcastle and what it means for states to buy football clubs. You can have all that opinion, but then a coach will have an offer that will include developing a club, developing facilities, doing a lot of things that attracts to the coach, and the coach may take the decision to actually go for it. But at the moment, my understanding is that the conversation hasn't taken place. I think he's waiting for an opportunity at a big club, Bayern Munich or Juventus or PSG. But then you're seeing that PSG are going to renew Tuchel, I believe, if it hasn't happened yet. Obviously, Bayern Munich will continue with Flake. And you've got Real Madrid with Zidane for now. So right now, it doesn't seem it's going to happen anything for the next 6 months, in which case other things may enter the equation and your ideas, but that's where we stand at the moment. Brett McKenzie says, 91, says, as a sport coach, I'd like to know at what point did Mauricio realize coaching was an option for him, and also how does Mauricio structure feedback to players, both positive and negative? Very good question. Can I recommend you go back to the book that we did together, Brave New World, because you need to understand the context of why he relates in the way he relates to the players and when to say the things. And at what point he realized that coaching was important to him. Basically, he had it in him to be a leader. He understands football. At the time when he thought, what next? Coaching was an automatic thing. And as I said in the book, and we explained in the book, the people that were at the course, getting the badges, they knew that he was going to be a coach because of the way he spoke, the way his demeanor, his aura, and his understanding of the game. But it's a good book. Go for it. Are the reports about the impending fire sale of Barcelona true? Everybody's for sale at Barcelona. I've said it here. Apart from De Jong, Ter Stegen, Messi, everybody else is for sale at Barcelona. And that is because they need to recoup 70 million euros by the end of the season. And that will be hard. And they need to also, as they don't have cash, they'll need to get some other players to go as part of the deals that they have in place. Deals that they have in place. Lautaro Martinez, personal terms agreed with Barcelona. Pjanic, personal terms agreed with Barcelona. But now they have to convince Inter and they have to convince Juventus. So it's not finished, but those are the two they're going for. And if they can use some of the players like Umtiti, like Arthur, but Arthur doesn't want to go anywhere. Juventus will take Arthur instead of Pjanic in a swap and maybe something else, but they just basically don't want to get... Arthur doesn't want to leave Barcelona right now. Rakitic is for sale. I mean, we've discussed it every week anyway. They're just trying to put those players, Semedo as well, as part of those deals. How realistic are the current plans for the La Liga return? Realistic enough. I mean, the coaches and the players perhaps would like an extra week or more days training because it'll be about 10, 12 days in which they'll be able to actually have collective, everybody together, training sessions. But the whole thing is interesting because it's the walk in a new path, isn't it? As such, I've spoken to the BBC and I'm going to be following a very big, in my eyes anyway, very big manager in La Liga. And I'm going to speak to him 3 or 4 times in key moments during the next few weeks, for instance, in this period. And then after the first few games, and then reaching the end, and see what conclusions he's taken and what he's learning from the process and how he's managing to do, to convince the players and how everything is affecting his job. So keep an eye on it. And finally, from T-Boys K, also regular, hello. Have Barcelona given up on Neymar to the money problem, or do they still believe they can get him before the next season begins? It's very, very difficult not to say impossible, almost. That's what they're thinking at the moment. That's what they're telling me, that Neymar will cost so much money and the circumstances are not right for that transfer right now. PSG won't make it easy for Barcelona. Neymar will try to push his way a little bit, but at the moment he's been very, very quiet. Of course, they have to play for the Champions League. They may go very far in the Champions League, and things may change when we get to July and August. But right now, Barcelona feel that they don't have the money to actually get Neymar. That's it. Let me check that I've said everything. Yes, I have. And if you want more of me, you can find me on the BBC Football Daily podcast, in the Pure Football podcast that is my own, and it's got a lot of interviews there that you may be interested in. My Saturday column in sport, generally in Spanish, but sometimes I translate it into English. If you speak Norwegian, in the TV2 blog, in Cope Partidazo, El Partidazo de Cope, if you actually speak Spanish, and La Liga TV, which of course will return the week of the 11th. I don't know exactly the details yet, but La Liga TV, if you are in the UK, for instance, you'll be able to get it, and you'll be able to get a show every day. There will be games every day, but also shows with highlights and stories and interviews every day as well. And also there is something there called Talking Football, which is a program that we've done, that I present, in which I've interviewed Xavi Hernandez, Iniesta, Joaquín and Gordillo, two legends of Betis, Iribar and Iñaki Williams of Athletic Bilbao. And on the 1st of June, it will be the release of the next episode of that series, Talking Football, with Mauricio Pochettino. We play golf on that day. Me, not very well. Speak to you soon. Bye.